Welcome back to Method Cooking with David. Tonight we're doing a kind of classy take on crab rangoon. Everything I had at home except for the zucchini blossoms. So instead of using wonton wrappers to contain everything, I actually picked up these zucchini blossoms in a small greenhouse across the street from a job site today at work. So I had the crab, green onions, tempura batter, and a couple Asian sauces. So we're going to make our own sweet and sour sauce. We're going to plate it up, get everything mixed. This is going to be like a really quick kind of classy appetizer, and it should be delicious. We're going to start with the crab rangoon filling. As we're starting to get this prepped, I've got a small pot of oil behind me. We're going to bring that up to like 350, 360. If you don't want to fill a pot of oil, or you do have like a mini deep fryer, it'll work really well. I wouldn't recommend using an air fryer. Those are really good for kind of like already pre-fried snacks, whether it's like frozen mozzarella sticks or fish sticks or like popcorn shrimp. But for something like this, it's never been fried or cooked at all, you're going to want to actually go into a pot of hot oil. I started earlier by taking out a block of cream cheese. You could use one or two, kind of depending on how many you're making. I let it sit on the counter for maybe like an hour to kind of soften it up, or you could use a trick from a previous video where I put it in a mug and ran hot water over it, and that'll soften it up really quick. Put it in a mixer and put in a whisk. Whipped it for maybe 15-20 minutes just to incorporate some air. It's going to make it a lot lighter and fluffier. Not only is it going to taste better, but it's going to be a lot similar to the crab rangoon, like kind of that texture that you get when you go to a Chinese restaurant. So I've got the mixing bowl. I've got our whipped cream cheese. Don't use sour cream. I've got our crab meat, a little bit of granulated garlic, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. So we're going to start with the green onions. The green onions is both flavor and color. The green tops add a lot of good color and just like a vibrant look to it, or to any dish. And then as you get closer to the bottom where the white is, that's going to be a lot more flavorful. It's going to taste a lot more like onion than the green tops. So, fingers curled up again. We're going to cut these as thin as possible. We don't want big chunks of green onion in there. And as we get these cut, we're going to add them to this white bowl, and then we're going to fold in that cream cheese, followed by the granulated garlic, a little bit of Worcestershire, and then last but not least, the most important part, the crab. So we're going to break that up into small pieces so that when I put it in our Ziplock makeshift piping bag, it's going to drop into the blossoms really easily. Now we've got the cream cheese and the green onions mixed up. We're going to add a little bit of granulated garlic. Just a couple little squeezes. We're going to mix that up. It's going to give a chance for that granulated garlic to kind of absorb some of the moisture from the cream cheese, so it's not going to be like gritty once you start to eat it. And then just a splash of Worcestershire sauce. Always a fun word to say. Get that mixed up. It smells amazing. We're going to start breaking up the crab meat. For our filling, we're going to want smaller pieces to make sure it fits through the piping bag. And don't forget to double check on your oil. So I've got just mine in a pot, but I've got a candy thermometer in there to make sure it stays in that kind of 350, 375 range. If you're using a kind of a traditional countertop deep fryer, you probably don't have to worry about checking the temp as much. Just make sure it's set to somewhere between like 350 and 375. We've got everything in the bowl. It's all nice and mixed together. So we've got a nice even spread of all the ingredients throughout. We're going to kind of mash that down to the bottom of the bowl, and we're going to let that sit for just a few minutes to kind of let all the flavors marry up. So while we're letting that sit, we're going to use our sweet chili sauce and a little bit of the rice wine vinegar, and we're going to make our own sweet and sour sauce. So we're going to start with maybe a couple tablespoons of the vinegar in this pot. We're going to bring it up to a boil. That's going to eat through some of that acidic bite, but it's still going to have kind of that vinegar tang to it. And then we're going to follow up with a little bit of the sweet chili sauce, and we're going to serve that warm once the crab rangoon are done. Behind me, we've got the sauce working. That's the vinegar just kind of cooking off, and then we're going to splash in that sweet chili sauce. We've got the oil heating up to 350, 375. We've got the crab rangoon mix just kind of marrying up, letting all those flavors start to play well with each other. And now we're going to make the batter. So we've got the tempura mix. That calls for 1 cup of the dry batter. It's kind of like we'll call it like an Asian flour. It's got just like certain properties that when it fries, it gets nice and puffy, which is really good for crab rangoon. So it calls for 1 cup of that and 3/4 of a cup of ice water. So I just have a cup with ice. We're just going to pour that in this liquid measuring cup up to 3/4 of a cup. As you mix it up, just pour that right in. As you mix it up, you're going to want it to be a little lumpy, almost the same consistency if you were making waffles. So there's going to be a little bit of thickness to it. So get that mixed up. And then the breading process, once we have the crab rangoon stuffed, we're going to stuff them with that crab rangoon mixture, dredge them in flour really quick just to give this batter something to adhere to, shake off the excess flour, dip it in here, and then right into the fryer. Here's the tempura batter once everything's mixed together. As you can see, it's kind of thick and a little lumpy, the same consistency as pancake batter. Here's the reduced kind of vinegar mix. As you can see, I started out with a few tablespoons and we're left with maybe one. So to that, we're going to bring in a little bit of that sweet chili sauce. So the vinegar is going to be that sour taste, and that sweet chili is obviously going to be the sweet taste. We're going to stir this up, put it back on the stove just on low, because I'm going to want to serve this warm once the crab rangoon are done. When you're making a makeshift piping bag, one thing I like to do is curl the top in, because if you leave it open like this and you start stuffing it, when you go close it, there's going to be a lot of, whether it's frosting, some sort of mixture like we've got here, it's going to get up in the Ziplock and it's not going to seal and make a big mess. So by turning the inside out a little bit, you kind of create a little cup, and everything down here not only stays clean, but it gives you a place to hold as you're loading it up. So, I'm going to grab our crab rangoon mixture, drop some of that in the bag. We've got a clean pair of kitchen shears, and with those we're going to cut off a decent sized hole, because with the big chunks of crab still in there, we want to make sure that it is actually going to come out. We're going to get that crab to that bottom corner where we're going to cut. Give that a seal. Press out any of that extra air that we can before sealing it off. And cut off the tip, and we're going to get stuffing. We've got the oil heating up. It's right around 360, 365, which is exactly where I want it. We've got that sauce at a simmer, but I turned off the oven, or I turned off the stove top, so that's just staying warm. So now I've got our zucchini blossoms and the crab mixture. With the zucchini blossoms, you want to just carefully kind of peel those top leaves back so you have access to the center. You're going to take this bag of crab mixture, stick it at the bottom, and just start squeezing. So there's a little top to it, and then from there we're going to pull the leaves over the top. Pull together, the leaves are going to act as kind of the lid, and we're going to set that off to the side until they're all ready to get breaded and fried. With the oil at the perfect temperature, we're going to dredge these in flour. It's really quick, and shake off any excess, because we don't need a bunch of flour, we just want something for the tempura batter to adhere to. So we're going to get these all floured up and staged on this plate. We're going to take the plate over, and from there we're going to cook maybe 2 or 3 at a time until they are crispy and golden brown. The oil's hot and our setup to bread and fry them is ready. So I've got a plate with paper towel to drop the finished product, a slotted spoon to fish them out of the oil. I've got the zucchini blossoms here, lightly dredged and coated in flour, and the batter right behind it. So we're going to start doing 2 or 3 at a time, and we'll see how it goes. As they're cooking in the oil, you might need to give them a little bit of a spin just so they cook evenly if they start to float. And again, we want to maintain this temperature between like 350 and 375. So everything in there is cooked except for the flour, so it's not like we're trying to hit a certain point, like if you're cooking chicken, pork, or steak. So with everything cooked, we are again just looking for kind of that crispy brown outside, much like you find in a regular crab rangoon. Got the zucchini blossoms starting to turn into a nice golden brown. So we're going to pull those off and drop them on this paper towel lined plate so that some of that excess grease can drip off before we go to the serving plate with them. Those 3 off. I'm going to repeat the same process. Dredged in flour, coated in that tempura. Shake off a little bit of that extra and right in the pan. Another round of some beautiful golden brown crab rangoon stuffed squash blossoms. Again, get those on the paper towels, drain off some of that extra grease. It's also going to let them cool down a little bit because putting it in your mouth right now would be like a small firebomb. So, last two. Got these two final, beautifully stuffed zucchini blossoms. And again, into the tempura. Give that a little toss so that everything is coated. Then we're going to shake off a little bit of that extra batter. And then just the slow lower into the oil bath. Toss this final one. And then we are going to the plate for a appetizer or dish. Guaranteed to impress just about anyone. And another method cooking episode on the books. Tonight we made the zucchini blossom stuffed crab rangoon. Like I said, I got lucky and found a farm that just happened to have them because there's such a small window and the blossoms are absolutely amazing. So we plated it up one way, kind of that fancy impress your spouse, significant other. And then the other option would be to just drop them on a plate, put a little bit of sauce in the middle, and essentially serve it family style. To that, you could also throw together some chicken fried rice, beef broccoli, whatever kind of Chinese or Asian inspired dish you want. But you've got just a healthy alternative, or a healthier alternative, and it's also something a little bit different. So again, everything in there is stuff I had at home, except for the zucchini blossoms, which, like I said, I got lucky and happened across. I want to thank you for tuning in. Please check out my other videos, and follow me along on this adventure of escaping recipes and rediscovering your kitchen. Stuffed crab rangoon. Tempura fried, served with a sweet chili and rice vinegar dipping sauce.